And happy Thursday morning. It is March the 18th in the year 2021, 8:09 right now. And yes, you've got it tuned in to the Morning Roundtable here on AM 1320, FM 1013, WKAN. I am your host, Josh Carman, and Jim Byrne is here as well.
Morning.
And we'll be speaking to Chad Miller here in just a minute. But first, let's take a look at that forecast. And it is windy out there. We do have a wind advisory still in effect until 7 o'clock tonight. And besides it being windy, it's also going to rain today. May mix with some snow later this afternoon. And today's high right around 40.
You're just a bunch of good news this morning.
If you're worried about snow accumulation, little or no snow accumulation today. Tonight, though, we do have a chance for some rain and snow early on, but otherwise it's going to gradually clear up the sky, and low's going to be around 28. Friday, tomorrow should be sunny. We're going to have a high of 47. Saturday's looking nice, sunny, high near 55, and Sunday will be sunny with a high of 63, and Monday should be partly sunny with a high of 64. It's windy out there right now, got some light rain falling, and it's right around 39 degrees at the Greater Kankakee Airport. And this look at weather is brought to you by State Farm Todd Arsenal in Bourbonnais. And yes, the great, incredible Chad Miller in the studio
Always
here
blessed
with us this morning.
With his presence.
Yes, how you doing, Chad?
I'm doing great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for that introduction, Joshua. My pleasure to be here.
We need theme music.
Don't disappoint.
Right.
We need theme music.
Yeah, don't disappoint our listeners. So
Yes,
no. But yeah, Chad is the manager of the Kankakee County Farm Bureau, so we welcome him in every month to give an update on what's going on. And I'm pretty sure farmers are in their minds,
like Farmer Paxton, tomatoes going.
Thinking about starting to prep. I'm assuming maybe getting it all ready, so when they finally get the time that they can start planting, right?
Yeah, well, the weather that we had last weekend was really making farmers, getting anxious and ready to get out in the farm field. Sunny weather, a little bit of a breeze, drying off that farm field. But as we've experienced this week, ice, cold rain, temperatures in the 30s. No, that's going to delay things for a little bit. A fact that I've shared before is that when the conditions have to be ideal for farmers to want to get out there and plant their crops. If the conditions aren't ideal, if they're too wet, too cold, that's not going to bring good germination and won't produce a good stand of crops. Mm-hmm. Corn needs the soil temperature to be about 50 degrees in order for that corn kernel to germinate properly. Soybean seeds need about 54 degree soil temperature, and that's about 4 inches below the surface of bare ground. And I think this weather that we've had this week is going to keep that soil temperature pretty low. So it's going to be a while. It's going to take a lot of sunshine to bring that soil temperature up to those germination levels of about 50 or 54 degrees. Mm-hmm. So right now, farmers, they are getting their seed delivered to their farm operations. They're checking over their equipment to make sure it's ready to rock and roll once that weather turns. Other things they're doing, they're cleaning out their grain bins so that when they do have a crop in the fall, they'll be able to store that. So a lot of other things going on. We've got a lot of specialty crops grown in Kankakee County. I talked to one specialty crop grower the other day who's got some cabbage growing in his greenhouses. And then once the weather is fit, probably kind of early to mid-April, he'll transplant those cabbage seedlings into a farm field. And also that same specialty crop grower out in the St. Anne area is getting ready with his seed potatoes. So he's going to plant those probably first part of April as well. So we've got a lot of stuff going on.
A little late for St. Patrick's Day, but...
Yeah. I got a quick question for you. What is the most unique crop in Kankakee County? Like if you were like non-traditional, like the most unique... if a farmer is growing some, what is the most unique crop?
Well, that's a really good question. You could say that there's some varieties of peppers, pumpkins, whatever, but those aren't maybe quite as unique. But Van Drunen Farms grows a lot of herbs that you might not think of, like tarragon. Ooh. That's the seasoning that goes into the McDonald's Big Mac special sauce. How about that?
See, things you don't know. It's great. Yeah.
So I'd classify that as unique.
Okay.
But
Big Macs, they're just popping up everywhere.
That's good to know, because tarragon, I thought that was a part of the Lord of the Rings story.
I thought it was. I thought it'd be a monster in Kong versus Godzilla coming out in 2 weeks.
Right, but there's a lot of specialty crops grown in the county, especially herbs out at Van Drunen Farms, and some of those have some unique uses, and sometimes it's not what you'd think about growing in this area.
Yeah, that's great. It's awesome to know.
Sure. I'm assuming with all the snow that we got last month, is the moisture levels pretty good right now for the soil?
Yeah, I'd say they're adequate to more than adequate with all this rain that we've had and the snow.
Yeah.
So farmers are looking forward to the spring planting. Right now, cash grain prices are really good, mainly due to buying from China. China is buying a lot of our agricultural commodities. So corn right now is about $5.40 per bushel. And then soybeans are about a little bit over $14 per bushel.
Wow,
so that is really good. The cash prices, farmers can sell their crops on contract. So the October prices are a little bit below that. Corn prices are about $1 less than cash prices right now for October, because primarily that's when the supply is going to hit the market. So the prices in the fall are a little bit lower, and for soybeans, they're about $2 lower than what the cash prices are. So if a farmer wanted to sell his or her crops on the futures market, they're going to have to figure that soybeans are about $12 a bushel, whereas cash right now is about $14 per bushel. But that all has to do with supply and demand. There's not a whole lot of soybeans left on the farm right now. There's a fair amount of corn that farmers can still market, but so that's all reflected in those prices. The supply and demand market dictates those prices.
All right. So we're speaking with Chad Miller this morning, Kankakee County Farm Bureau Manager. Now, besides all the crops that we mentioned, corn and soybeans and the tarragon that you can see grown here in Kankakee County, some other things you might see on farm fields includes different types of energy sources. And there's a program coming up to talk about that, right?
That's right. Yeah, I think you're referring to wind turbines and solar panels. There's been a lot of farmers that have been approached by wind and solar companies to see if they'd be interested in having one of these operations on their farm. What farmers need and landowners need to remember is that some of these contracts are very long-term, and we've got a program coming up March 30th that we're working with the Kendall-Grundy County Farm Bureau, our neighbor to the northwest, on this program. And we're going to have some great speakers from the Illinois Farm Bureau. We're going to have Bill Bodine. He's the Director of Business and Regulatory Affairs. And we've got two members of the Illinois Farm Bureau Legal Counsel, Laura Harmon and Garrett Talgett. They're also going to be part of this program, but that's going to be March 30th at 6 p.m. And they're going to go over wind and solar farm leases and important things to consider when negotiating agreements with those contracts. So if someone's interested in participating in that program on March 30th about wind and solar farm leases, they need to contact the Kankakee County Farm Bureau, and we'll get them registered for that. But that's going to be an online program. So call the Farm Bureau office or find us on Facebook at our Kankakee County Farm Bureau Facebook page. Shoot us a message, and we'll get you registered for that program.
Okay. Good to hear.
Yeah, and Kankakee County, I mean, this goes back, I remember when I was on the board with Chairman Bossert, a lot of the wind farms and solar stuff was coming up. I mean, Kankakee County's a pretty green county when you think about it.
Yeah,
it has been for quite a while.
There has been a lot of movement here in our area in particular with solar and wind farms. There's a lot of wind farms existing. There's a lot of solar farms on the books. A couple of them are probably going to be operational. Solar farms are probably going to be operational this summer. So that's all in the works. But if a farmer has a piece of ground that isn't extremely productive, or they can set aside a quarter acre or something for a wind turbine, then this might be something that they would consider. But like I said, the length of the agreement, the length of the contract can be sometimes 20, 30 or more years. So the farmer, the landowner, really has to consider if there's anything else they might want to do with that property, and make sure that they have a professional look over that contract to negotiate the best terms of that agreement for them.
Sure. And again, when is this virtual program?
It'll be on Tuesday, March 30th. So not next week, but the week after at 6 p.m. March 30th at 6 p.m. online.
Okay. And the contact your office?
Yes. Okay. Yes. They can call 815-932-7471 at the Kankakee County Farm Bureau office to get registered for that program.
All righty. It is 8:18 here on the Morning Roundtable. We've got to take our next break here on the show, but when we return, Chad will still be with us, and we'll talk about some other things going on with the Farm Bureau, including they had their annual meeting last week, so we'll get some details on that. That's coming up after this. It's 8:22, and this is the Morning Roundtable. Welcome back in with Josh Carmen. That's myself. Jim Byrne is also here.
Good morning.
Chad Miller, Kankakee County Farm Bureau Manager, is still here as well. And again, thank you, Chad, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Last week, you had your annual Farm Bureau meeting. Different than what it usually is. No meal, right, this year?
That's right, unless they brought their own.
No clam chowder.
Did anyone leave to go get some White Castles out of the microwave? Or, yeah.
Well, our business meeting only lasted about...
Frozen pizza.
It only lasted about 20 or 30 minutes, so narrow window for somebody to run out and grab anything. But yeah, you're right. Last Thursday afternoon, we held our 109th Kankakee County Farm Bureau annual meeting. And like you said, due to COVID-19, the global pandemic, we weren't able to have our usual annual banquet. Usually that banquet, we had a featured speaker, about 100 people in attendance, Farm Bureau members and guests, elected officials, media. But obviously we didn't hold that this year, so we just did an online meeting where we just went through the business meeting and did the election of directors, conducted a few other reports, but that was the gist of it. The Kankakee County Farm Bureau is governed by 17 local farmers. And they each serve a 2-year term. So every year, there's about half of them up for election. This year, there were 8 Kankakee County Farm Bureau board members up for election, and they all chose to seek another term. So we didn't have any new blood to our board, and we had all 8 wishing to serve another term, and we're extremely appreciative of those farmers in the area that choose to serve and be a part of our organization. And then this last Monday night at our March 15th Kankakee County Farm Bureau Board meeting, we had the election of officers. There we did have some changes. Keith Musselman, being our Kankakee County Farm Bureau president for nearly 16 years, stepped down since he's taking on a role at the Illinois Farm Bureau as a board member on the Illinois Farm Bureau Board. So that made way for Greg St. Aubin to be elected as president, and then Clay Abbott to be elected as vice president, and Gary Parlberg as our secretary-treasurer. Gary Parlberg has been our secretary-treasurer since 2013. Greg St. Aubin has been on our Kankakee County Farm Bureau Board since 2007, and Clay Abbott joined our Farm Bureau Board in 2015. Clay farms out by Moments. Greg St. Aubin farms around Mantino, and Gary Parlberg farms around the Grant Park area. So that's our new leadership executive committee at the Kankakee County Farm Bureau. We're excited to have new leadership. Obviously, having Keith as our president for 16 years, we've all gotten very spoiled with all of his leadership and political acumen. But looking forward to Greg St. Aubin's tenure as our president. So that was a great couple meetings here the last week.
Sure.
A few other things that we've had go on. Another program that we had to perform virtual. Usually our Young Leaders Committee of the Farm Bureau sponsors a program for our FFA chapters. All of our high school agriculture students, we usually go on a bus trip, a tour of some different agricultural businesses. We've gone to Chicago Board of Trade, Eli's Cheesecake, the Case New Holland Engineering Campus, the U of I Ag and Bioengineering facilities. But this year, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we had to do this online. So at the end of February, we hosted this program where we talked a little bit about the Farm Bureau, our history, how we're governed, our family of companies. But we also had some excellent speakers. We had one of our keynote speakers was Carrie Underley. She's a third-generation butcher. She's also an educator and author, and she formed this Range Meat Academy in 2018. So she talked a little bit about meat production's tie to local agriculture, the important role meat production plays in our economy. She did a little bit of an overview of the cuts of meat, and she talked about her certificate program at the Range Meat Academy. And it was really interesting to hear.
That's a lost art form.
It is. And when you see her butchering, a side of beef, it is like watching art being performed. It was pretty cool. There are 6.2, here's another did you know fact.
Okay.
6.2 million people employed in the meat production industry in the United States. That makes it the largest segment of agriculture in the nation.
Wow.
And she was also, this guest speaker, Carrie Underley, she was also a guest judge on the show Chopped. I don't know if you've ever watched that TV show Chopped.
Okay.
But so we asked her a little bit about that and asked her what her favorite cut of meat was and how she likes that prepared. And she said basically, and this was kind of an interesting takeaway, she said, think about all the months, more than a year that it takes to raise a steer and, all the work and all the care that the farmer puts into raising that animal. And then it all comes down to that 3 or 4 minutes on the grill. So don't mess it up.
Yeah.
Don't char the thing. Don't ruin it because you're going to disappoint that farmer.
Yeah. Did she say are people allowed to go all rocky on sides of beef in the freezer? Pork industry, or?
No, that probably bruises the beef.
Okay.
I don't suppose
my rib broke.
Mickey probably didn't encourage that.
No.
But another thing she mentioned is that meat protein is about 72% water. So when you're cooking that piece of meat, basically it's water management. You don't want to dry the thing out.
Sure.
But it was really an interesting program that we put together for the FFA students. And
that's pretty cool.
Another one of the speakers we had was Sean Arians. He's a fourth-generation farmer, and he talked about taking the next steps in agriculture. He gave some stories about when he was involved in FFA in high school and how he was a little bit nervous or apprehensive to try something that he hadn't done before. But he took those next steps, and it paid a lot of dividends. And he talked about how it's sometimes difficult to take that next step, but they are rewarding when you can do so. So I think the students that participated had a great educational session. We had high school ag students from Manteno, St. Anne, Herscher, and Moments. Wow. So it was great to have that program, even though it was virtual and it wasn't as fun maybe for the kids to be out of school all day long and go somewhere. But it was a great program. And actually, some things might come from this. One of the things that Carrie Underley talked about was her cooperation with the Montana Farm Bureau and a local community college out there in promoting these meat certificate programs. I know when COVID-19 caused a lot of the shutdowns, there was a shortage of meat processors. So I've worked on helping connect Carrie Underley with our Kankakee Community College to see if maybe that's something that they could work with, and our livestock specialist at the Illinois Farm Bureau. So we're putting together kind of a group conversation to see if maybe something like that could be put together in Illinois and maybe right here at the Kankakee Community College. So that we'll kind of keep an eye on that. And if something comes from it, then that'd be great. But Caitlin Ort is the Agriculture and Horticulture Director at Kankakee Community College, and she's really excited about this. So that's really neat. Another thing to mention here, another deadline that's coming up, March 31st is the deadline to apply for our Kankakee County Farm Bureau Scholarship.
Okay.
And we've got 3 different scholarship applications, one for high school seniors, one for students that are already in college that maybe changed a major into agriculture, and then one for applicants who are just taking 1 or 2 classes that want some financial support. But there are some criteria that they must follow. They've got to be a resident of Kankakee County or a Kankakee County Farm Bureau member family and be accepted to an accredited post-secondary school in an agriculturally related field. And so that includes community colleges, junior colleges, also vocational schools. So we want to make sure that everybody knows that those scholarships are available. Last year we had a record number of scholarship recipients, and we've raised our scholarship amount to $1,500 each. So over the course of the last 16 years, we've supported Kankakee County students studying agriculture. We've given out $109,000 in scholarship educational support from the Kankakee County Farm Bureau Foundation. And that wouldn't be possible without all the generous donors from individuals, Farm Bureau members, and local businesses. Been very generous in supporting that program.
Awesome. Chad Miller, the manager of the Kankakee County Farm Bureau. We got about a minute left. Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, next week is National Ag Week, so I'll share another fact with you. Agriculture is the nation's largest industry, employing about 23 million people in 250 different careers in agriculture. Farmers are less than 1% of the U.S. population, but those 250 careers in agriculture is much more than just production agriculture. Again, it's an important part of our industry, an important part of our economy, and thank you again for having us, and everybody celebrate National Ag Week next week.
Yeah, sure is. So thanks again, Chad, for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
Yeah, great seeing you, Chad.
Great, thank you.